What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here today for another Frosty Features. We have another Superior 6 character to talk about, and it is Kraven the Hunter. So, if you haven't been here before, what this is a comic book background on the toons that you use in Marvel Strike Force, and I am your humble guide. So, with that, let us begin. According to Scopely, Sergei Kravenov, aka Kraven the Hunter, was a skilled big game hunter who grew tired of hunting animals. After seeing the capabilities of Spider-Man, Kraven turned his sights onto the wall crawler. He spent years studying Spidey's movements and ingested a magical elixir that gave him enhanced strength, speed, and agility before confronting the wall crawler on multiple occasions. We will rate this blog post description of Kraven at the end of the feature. So, with that, let's see what we've got. This is our man of the hour. This is the Kraven the Hunter. Name, as stated in the blog post, Sergei Kravenov. His first appearance is in Amazing Spider-Man number 15, all the way back in 1964. Most of the Superior 6 characters that we've come across are all characters that show up at the very beginning of Spidey's time, so that's pretty cool. Power/abilities. He is superhuman, and he has a beast mastery that I would argue is a type of power. So, he is superhuman to the fact that he is actually compared to Captain America, and it is stated that in canon, his superhuman strength and speed and reflexes and stuff are actually all past the level of Captain America. Captain America is supposedly peak human, but my argument is that he's beyond all capabilities of human, because even at peak human, you can't lift cars and stuff like Captain America does on occasion. Kraven is Captain America plus as far as strength goes. He also has his form of beast mastery where he can train and use different animals and beasts and things like that sort of at whim. And he will randomly appear with different like monsters on occasion. Beasts, doesn't matter if they're from Earth either, right? And he can use them as his pets, as his trained attack animals, and he seems to be able to do this quite fast. So even though it's not canonically a power, he uses it a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, boom, he's got some sort of connection with beasts where he can control them. And also beast is the nomenclature thrown around for the animals and things he hunts. So that's why I used Beastmaster specifically. Aliases, namely he's Kraven the Hunter. He goes by the Hunter, and he also impersonates various Spider-Men for some reason. I talk in Frosty Features, I've talked about Kraven's Last Hunt, I think multiple times. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit here, but I didn't want it to make it a notable event because of how much I talked about it. But in Kraven's Last Hunt, he does masquerade as the Black Suit Spider-Man for a while, the symbiote Spider-Man, but he doesn't actually have the symbiote. And then he also has a stint where he is the acting Scarlet Spider. So, there might be a couple more, but those are the ones I know off the top of my head. So there's that. Affiliation, Sinister Six and Avengers. He doesn't really care to be affiliated that often. Even in the founding of Sinister Six, that comes up. We'll talk about that later. We'll get there. Oh, and then he was a part of the 1950s Avengers. So Kraven, also part of his abilities is longevity. The elixir that he ingested gives him extended life. Background, he is from Volgograd, Russia. He is Russian, and then he was born into Russian aristocracy and ended up working in, I believe, Kenya. He's in Africa somewhere, but he's working, he gets a job there, and that's when he starts big game hunting. And the big game hunting sort of evolves, and sort of how he starts. So who died? Because you can't be a superhero or supervillain without somebody dying. In Kraven's situation, I say it counts. He starts big game hunting, and the thing is he gets so addicted to hunting that, so he starts off conventionally, he's using a gun, whatever, but he goes to the bigger and bigger games, and then he decides he doesn't want to use guns anymore, he wants to use his hands, so he starts barehanded killing big game, right? Which gets him trained to his peak level, what have you, and then after he gets his witch's brew, more or less, he is able to kill even bigger game with his bare hand. So with that, the witch's brew comes from a witch doctor named Calypso, who is his lover for a short period of time, and gives him this herbal, it's a potion, gives him an herbal mix that gives him all of his powers. It's very, very similar feeling to Black Panther, quite honestly. I don't think there's any direct relation, but it just the way it kind of comes out and the way that the herb works. Because it's not the heart-shaped herb like in Black Panther, but it is these mysterious African magical herbs that give him his power. So there's sort of a parallel there. But yes, so Calypso, former lover, she also shows up in like Daredevil comics, I believe. She comes to the United States and fights. But she's psychopathic and kind of crazy. Which Kraven are we talking about? So here's the thing I wanted to point out about Kraven the Hunter. If you pick up a comic right now, and Kraven is in it, it's not guaranteed to be the same Kraven. So typically, especially in Frosty Features, we stick to Marvel 616 canon. In Marvel 616 canon, for some reason, the way Kraven works is he's sort of a legacy villain. So legacy being when you die or you're done, you hand off your title to the next person. Kraven the Hunter is made up of Sergei Kravinoff, some of Kraven's sons, and then Kraven also has a clone which he raises as a son that becomes Kraven after Kraven dies, and a few others. So there are multiple Kraven the Hunters that all have similarly powered skills, and some of them go back and ingest are a similar elixir or whatever. Some of them are scientifically enhanced superhumans, but there it is. Oddly enough, out of all of them, none of them are powered by lion's blood. So there's that. Moving on. The Rejected Batman story. So it's a cool fact. Like I said, I don't want to get too much into Kraven's Last Hunt. So if you haven't seen other Frosty Features where I haven't talked about Kraven's Last Hunt, it is essentially the final hunt of Kraven, where he's hunting Spider-Man. His main thing, his whole ideology is that Spider-Man is the most man is the most dangerous game, and Spider-Man is the top of men. So he wants to hunt Spider-Man. In Kraven's Last Hunt, he hunts Spider-Man for the final time. And it's awesome. It's debatably the best Spider-Man story ever written, which is why I've talked about it multiple times. But it actually was originally supposed to be a Wonder Man story and was rejected. And then DeMatteis, the writer for the Kraven's Last Hunt, took it to DC and was like, okay, well, it could be a Batman story. And instead of Kraven, it's the Joker. And instead of Spider-Man, it's Batman. But it's rejected again. So eventually he was able to get it on third try as the charm, brings it in for a Spidey story, which is why Kraven's Last Hunt as a dark story feels so much darker than the rest of the Spider-Man stories, because it actually was written to be a Batman story. So I just thought it was a cool little tidbit that you might not know. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Moving on. Relationships. Dmitry Smerdyakov is his half-brother. So, very important half-brother there. The first villain... this is a villain that is not in Marvel Strike Force, who easily could be in Marvel Strike Force, but the first villain that Spider-Man ever fights in his own solo comic is the Chameleon. So, the Chameleon and Kraven are half-brothers, and Kraven essentially just kind of beats the crap out of him to make him kind of show up. And another thing I don't talk about in the notable event, so I wanted to point it out now, because I do take a shot at it in the according to Scopely here at the end. But the Chameleon is why Kraven notices Spider-Man. The Chameleon can't beat Spider-Man, and he's tired of getting foiled by Spider-Man, so he calls in Kraven the Hunter to come and kill Spider-Man. So that's Kraven doesn't notice shit about Spider-Man ahead of time. He gets told. So there's that. Sasha Kravinoff is his wife, who is dead, which is one of the big reasons why he runs around doing stuff. She could probably have been in the Who Died section. She dies much later after he becomes Kraven, though, so I guess it doesn't really count. Vladimir, Aloysia, and Anna Kravinoff are his children, 2 boys and a girl. And then we've got Ned Tenegarden is another son of his. That is bore by some other person, some other born and raised from some other group. He's not aware of Kraven's heritage right away. And then there is Kraven or Zraven, which is his clone, a clone that he has that he raises up to be himself. And he becomes Kraven the Hunter after regular Kraven dies. So that is what it is. Great. So those are the relationships, and then we got notable events. So once again, Kraven's Last Hunt isn't on here, but if you care about Kraven at all, or Spider-Man, or anything, you should read Kraven's Last Hunt. I've talked about it so much, so we're going to talk about some other stuff. So, notable events. The development of Sinister Six. That's right. Kraven the Hunter is one of the original Sinister Six members. So, the way this works out is all of the members of the Six are really pissed off, and they're tired of fighting Spider-Man, and they're not able to beat him. So Dr. Octopus gets this beautiful idea. He's like, you know what? We're gonna get all of Spider-Man's enemies together at the time, and we are going to attack him all together. And so he gets them all in the room, and they're like, why are we here? And he's like, we need to build a team, and we're gonna use this team to take out Spider-Man. And Doc Ock essentially is like, yeah, let's attack him all at once. He'll die, right? And then we can do whatever the heck we want. And Kraven's like, no. I am not a pack hunter. I'm a solo hunter. I won't be a part of this. This is how we do it. And they're like, okay, how's that going to work then? And he's like, let's attack them all one at a time, because that's how we've been doing it recently. And we'll slowly wear him down, right? So, the original Sinister Six are comprised of Doc Ock, Kraven, Mysterio, Vulture, Sandman, and Electro. And so the idea is that Electro is going to... I just lost the light. Electro is going to attack him first, and then directly every time somebody's defeated. So they plan on being defeated for some reason. So they all have cards. And every time they get defeated, they hand Spidey a card where to find the next Sinister Six member. So that doesn't go well, and Kraven's number 2 in the slot, and Electro gets his butt kicked, Kraven gets his butt kicked, and Spidey runs the gauntlet, essentially, for my people in nerd groups that look at gauntlet fights. Spidey runs the gauntlet, and it doesn't work, because obviously it wouldn't. They don't start all trying to attack Spidey at once until later. But yeah, so that's the original development of the Sinister Six. So, after the fall of the Sinister Six, first thing, so we're going to lead up to Kraven's Last Hunt. After the fall of that, Green Goblin, who is not a part of the original Sinister Six, shows up and he's like, yo, Kraven, I want to pay you a crap ton of money. You have bested Spider-Man, and Kraven does best Spider-Man often. And he's like, you have bested Spider-Man, I'm going to pay you a buttload of money if you'll kill him. And Kraven's like, I want to kill him anyway. Let's make a deal. I lost the light for real that time. So he's like, let's make a deal. Let's do this. And, so as Kraven's looking for him, he comes across Deadpool, who has the symbiote, the Venom symbiote. So he thinks it's Spider-Man, and, he attacks him, and, essentially he fights Deadpool, and Deadpool's like, I'm not the guy you're looking for, idiot. And, this is where we see, Kraven gets extra frustrated with Deadpool, which pushes him to the Last Hunt thing. That's all that's leading up to Last Hunt, which is kind of cool. Cool. And then the other thing, and I forgot to pull this up. So that's the Sinister Six right there. Could have been there the whole time, but there they are in all their glory. And then finally, we've got Kraven and Ka-Zar. So, if you know anything about Marvel Comics, this is another character. We talked about Chameleon, who could be in Marvel Strike Force. Another character that could come easily. We don't have anything about the Savage Lands that I remember off the top of my head. But the Savage Lands are a big part of Marvel, and they could come to Marvel Strike Force quite easily. And a big member of the Savage Lands is Ka-Zar. For those of you who don't know who that is, he's essentially Marvel's Tarzan. But Kraven has a history with Ka-Zar. He fights him off panel, and he loses. And so one of the things he sits around being like the strongest person ever, he's also working towards becoming strong enough to be able to take out Ka-Zar. So there's a situation where he goes to the Savage Lands in order to to fight Ka-Zar. And in doing so, one of the reasons why he does it is he finds a crash landing site, and he finds this giant monster. The race is called a Tslin, Tslin. He finds a giant monster named Gog, and he's like, oh, if I have this, I can conquer the Savage Lands easily. So he masters Gog, and he takes him to the Savage Lands, while conveniently at the same time, Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy, and J. Jonah Jameson are doing research, going on a mission into the Savage Lands. And while there, they run into Kraven the Hunter. But Peter is Peter. He's not Spider-Man at the time. He's trying to be himself. And Kraven and Gog show up, and he steals Gwen Stacy. And he's like, "You're gonna be my mate," because I'm apparently extremely animalistic or whatever. And so Spider-Man has to show up to save Gwen Stacy. But with Gog being a problem, he approaches Ka-Zar for help. And so Ka-Zar and Spidey are going up against Kraven and Gog. And what you see here is Spider-Man taking on Gog and Ka-Zar taking on Kraven. And it's a big thing, but Ka-Zar is still able to best Kraven. Kraven's actually kicking his butt for a while, but then Ka-Zar more or less gets a pretty lucky kick and kicks him off a cliff. And for a very long time after that, or well, a few years after that, Kraven's presumed dead after falling off of this cliff. And Spidey uses his webs to distract Gog and leads him to a quicksand pit and gets him stuck in there, but he actually ends up surviving, and he ends up causing some havoc with the Fantastic Four later and ends up getting shrunk down and sent home. But he's in a few things, so it's pretty cool. Check it out. But yes, so Ka-Zar actually stands above Kraven on the Mount of Most Deadly Human. All right. And finally, power level. In Marvel Strike Force, they don't care about power level, but here on Frosty Features, we do. Now, the way that this works, if you are a multiversal threat, you are a threat to all of reality, not just your reality, but the whole multiverse itself can be toppled at your will. Universal means you are a threat to your reality. You could probably hop over to another reality and then end that one. Cosmic means you are a threat on the small end on a You are a threat on the small end on a planetary scale. You can take out small to large planetary bodies. With enough time and effort, you can take out things like a solar system or a galaxy. Nuclear means you have power equal to that of a nuclear bomb, leveling things like small cities or up to a planetary body with enough time. Super soldier means that you are beyond all capabilities of human peak. You can lift things like cars, or on the small end, level a brick wall. On the top end, leveling things like maybe a city block. City means you are a human trained to absolute peak of human ability, being that this is where we find a lot of our mercenaries, our secret agents, and things like that in Marvel. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian spawned by Hela in Marvel Strike Force, and due to undead Asgardian physiology, and just because I got a chip on my shoulder, I say that Greg is equal to that of a regular human being. Therefore, if I have a McDonald's tray of, I got a little carry tray full of drinks, and all the drinks were for some reason all hot coffee, and I was mad enough, I theoretically, with my weaponized coffee, could take on Greg. I as a regular human being, right? So, in the case of Kraven the Hunter, I kind of laid it out pretty thickly early on. He is often compared to the likes of Captain America, saying that he's a little bit better than Captain America. Captain America being the base for the super soldier level of my tiers here. So that firmly plants him in super soldier. He is not the bottom tier of super soldier, but one step up from bottom tier, right? So he fits firmly in there, no problems at all. And then moving on, according to Scopely, it's fine. They did get it twisted. They say that Kraven noticed, that's why I wanted to point out the thing about the chameleon, that Kraven noticed Spider-Man and decided to hunt him because he's so cool, but when actually somebody called him and it was like, yo, you need to come hunt this dude, right? So they got it twisted. It wasn't that bad. Honestly, I almost put they did fine on it. But they got something wrong, and it was pretty easy to fix. I don't really see, because that was obviously conjecture, and they just kind of made it up. So it would have been pretty easy to find. So I'm not 100% sure why they did that. But that was Frosty Features Kraven the Hunter. I hope that you all had a fantastic time. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks. And as a reminder, I stream every week at the link above, Sundays at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we do Frosty Features live. I hope that you all have a fantastic week, and most importantly, y'all, stay cool.